Well, it's definitely chilly out here. I think everybody and his brother and her sister have been talking about just how chilly it is. It's not really produce growing weather, is it? It's more like food shortage weather. So I was gone to Arkansas, like, I go regularly, and I did spray my plants out here with neem oil mixture before I left, and the ants still managed to bring some aphids up, and neem oil, as you know, does not work all that fast because it deals more with the animal's reproductive systems. So, yeah, they had a little bit of time to do some damage here before I was able to get back. I mean, I found a few aphids on there, even a few ants. The bees are still around, so the neem oil, I guess had time to dry on the leaves and flowers before the bees woke up that morning. But yeah, they can do some damage in a significant amount of time, and then to add to it, my little baby squash is no more, although it does have a brother or sister in there coming along. But it's really sad. This weather has just kind of, extreme rain, extreme heat, and then boom, cold. Like, what? My hybrid squash, we kind of moved this one into a cage because he was just flopping all over the place. He's already blooming, which is kind of interesting. This one is very prolific. It has grown very fast. So is the other one. My tomato cuttings are okay. The aphids got to some of them. They really decimated the beans, which, the beans were there to kind of pull what little insect attention away that couldn't be pulled away with the neem oil. For the most part, though, my containers are doing great. I did move my Roma that was kind of misshapen. You can see him up there. He's turning red. I'm probably going to go ahead and just get him out of there. There happens to be a volunteer bean growing in there. I can see that vine wrapping around him. But I've got blossoms that are no longer opening on this Roma. I think the weather has kind of affected it too. Here's my other hybrid squash, the summer squash. You can see that he's doing okay, even with, some of his leaves getting, attacked by the aphids. I came home and the damage was there, but there were no aphids. There were a couple of ants crawling around on top of the pot, but that's about it. The beans had started climbing this trellis. I don't know what happened to my spider. I'm betting that it was eaten. I have not seen it. I haven't even seen it on the camera that's up here. Some of my cherry tomatoes in here are growing along with the Romas, if you can see that. The aphids did come over a little bit, but not much. You can see there was damage there, and then I got the neem oil out, and those just kind of, I guess, died on the tomato, and I just haven't washed it off yet because, I'm really not wanting to spray some cold water onto these plants when it's so cold out. These guys are ripening, even though they get calcium. It's still got a little bit of cracking in it, but they're still doing good. This tomato is starting to suffer again with the whole fungus bit. So, I mean, I've had trouble with this tomato since the day I brought it home. This was the one I got from the big box store. So, yeah, I've had a lot of trouble with it. This is one of the cuttings, and it's been moved. It's doing okay. I can't say that this weather's been good for it. A couple of these sunflowers have started putting on heads. So what I did was all the ones that weren't putting on heads, I took them out of this to let the sunflowers focus, on production of, sunflowers, sunflower seeds. This tomato here is doing good. However, this one isn't. I think the tomatoes love that there are less sunflowers to compete with. I also took all the nasturtium out except those, and honestly, they should be huge by now. There were a couple in there that had gotten big, but they had also started turning color. This poblano in here could probably stand to get a bit bigger, and there are others that are out here. Now, I've never grown huge poblanos for some reason. They just don't want to get that big for me. And that could just be, something I'm doing, or because I'm putting them out too early, and they always get that extra frost. They don't actually get the frost on them because I keep them on the porch. Here in Arkansas, most of the peppers have already been harvested. I did the rest of those when I was there last week. Gosh, I get my days mixed up. And this guy, who I thought would not grow anymore, is now so tall that, my hands can't even reach the top of his head anymore. I can pull him down still, but yeah, I thought he had stopped growing. We got a 6-foot pole. We had him on a 3-foot one, which, he was towering over, so we got him a taller one, and he's about to grow taller than the pole. So, for whatever reason, he likes it out here. The aphids got to some of these sacrificial beans. They didn't mess with the beans themselves, but there's really not a lot of beans in here because these bugs were prolific with the leaves. So I'd taken a lot of the really damaged and eaten ones out. So they're definitely doing their job and keeping the bugs away from other things. I need to go ahead and pull these bunching onions out, get them washed up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be doing some pruning. I've got some blossoms to chop off in several spots. I'm going to top off some of these indeterminates and see if they can't focus on fruit production. Get all these damaged leaves out. Try to fight this fungus with some neem oil, maybe some hydrogen peroxide solution, which, it's a nice cheap way to do it. Look at that. Yeah, that's what I plan on doing. So far, the fungus hasn't spread, so I'm not too worried about it. Now, this basil here, I'm probably going to pull as much of it as possible. It's supposed to get about 2 feet, and you can see this one's already starting to recover again. I've already nipped several stalks of this and dried it, used some of it in cooking. These peppers need to go into a bigger pot now. My arugula back there is doing better up here than it was down on the porch floor. That pepper there has probably got a little bit more to grow before I move it. This squash is still flowering for me. Occasionally it'll drop off a flower, but it's still in the bowl and still doing good. What I'm gonna do first is water everything and kind of put the hose under the leaves also. And yeah, you're not supposed to water leaves, but the rain waters them, right? So I do that just in case there are spiders or bees or beneficial insects and they can get out of the way. Also to wash off some of the ones that are already on there, and then I'll spray my neem oil mixture, and that way I make sure that I'm only getting wet what needs to get wet, that nothing is going to suffocate or die from, whatever. We want our beans to do good, even though we sacrifice them. We want our tomatoes to do good, but the bees are coming around because everything's flowering, and I want to make sure that we don't hurt them. So Ed's out here doing his thing. You said that blue bucket back there doesn't seem to be growing.
You got that little bitty plant in that big old bucket.
Yeah.
But
dig him up.
Yet you got this huge tomato growing in a...
That little bitty plant back there is a carrot. One single carrot. It's a shorty. So I pulled all the bunching onions because they're ready, and some of them were starting to turn a little red, which, that means they've been in there too long. I've got my cilantro right now sitting in some water and vegetable wash, which, I added a little bit of apple cider vinegar because I'm kind of bug phobic about, I don't want to have a little extra crunch in my food. Crunchy vegetables are good, but,